Are you one of the 75% of contractors whose financial statements are inaccurate? Find out. Click on the link in the show notes and you'll get a free P&L and balance sheet check.
This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover tactics, ideas, news, and information that matter to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by Financially Fit Business. Get the business tool that helps you grow profitably, build wealth, and significantly impact your life and the lives of your employees. Go to www.financiallyfit.business and get started today. Thank you for joining us. Here's how we will help your business and you. This is the second segment of planning for 2025. I wanted a twist this year, so I asked Jason Kramer to come back. I was so impressed by what he was doing that I asked him to discuss some of the best marketing things you can do to increase customer sales and retention in 2025. Remember that Jason is the founder of Cultivize, a CRM consulting firm that empowers companies to identify, nurture, and transform leads into real revenue. He launched Cultivize to provide customized solutions and empower businesses to connect prospect and customer data with marketing campaigns and sales team activities. Jason, welcome back.
Thanks, Ruth. Happy to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, we got into
Yeah.
so many cool things. I thought, all right, we have to think about 2025 now. 2024 is basically done. So, if you had a clean slate for 2025 from a marketing and customer retention perspective, what would you do? I mean, the floor is yours.
So let's talk about customer retention first, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I'm going to tell a really quick story that I think will help resonate. And this, not everybody listening is going to be in the pool industry, which is this story is about, but
That's okay.
But that's okay. You'll get the concept. So a new client of ours, been in business for decades, does all types of pools and spas, etc. And he's got tons of data, but he's not doing anything with the data. And in a recent conversation, mind you, he's been a client for a few months. So this kind of comes what happens when you work with Cultivize. We start peeling back the layers. I said to him, hey, Andy, pools don't last forever, right? Liners need to be replaced, all these different accessories, new cool new things come out, automation and LED lighting. I said, we could easily create an email campaign to go back to these prior customers and saying, hey, Jason, it's been 8 years. Liners generally, get replaced every 8 or 9 years. Have you thought about that, or have you already done that? If not, we'd be happy to help. And these are all our options. And it's like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. And, and I was like, yeah, and it's simple and it doesn't cost a whole lot of money because you already have the data. You know what they bought from you. You know what they may need. Now it's just connecting the dots. And so I share that story, Ruth, because so many companies, whether it's, hundreds or thousands of records you might be sitting on. And, a lot of people say, oh, Jason, yeah, but these are from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And that's okay. I mean, ideally, fresher data is better, but we have ways of cleaning up the data, knowing if that person even still works at the company and helping you kind of solidify that list. But the point being is that most people listening today, Ruth, I think you and I would agree that you sold them one or two things, but there's other things you sell them. Would that be fair to say?
That
As a
is fair.
general assumption?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, and for those who are in the HVAC, not necessarily, well, the plumbing side has the water heaters. The electrical side, you still just have to keep it. The panels don't last forever. But from an HVAC perspective, for those of you who are in areas where the equipment lasts 12 to 15 years, what Jason's talking about is perfect. You got the data, right?
Exactly. Hopefully.
Well,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
If they give you the data, even if it's 10 years old, you can clean it up, right?
Well, you could. I mean, right. So I think the challenge for I think that in most, especially HVAC and other, home service providers, you would have some hopefully type of database for your service department or your records.
Uh-huh.
So yes, it would take more time if everything was all paper. But hopefully it's all electronic at this point in the 21st century. But yes, so things need to be done. I mean, you need to maybe it's an upgrade, right? Because we know R12, right? The Freon like is phased out, years
Yep.
ago, and
Hmm.
maybe your compressor needs an upgrade, or maybe your HVAC hasn't been cleaned in a while. Um, so there's all different things that can be done, to say, hey, we also do this, right? And if you may need that service from us. So I think that's something definitely to look at. And it's a great time to plan that because there's holidays coming up. So you can say, as a loyal customer, we're offering a Black Friday promotion, or maybe that's a little too soon and you need more time. So, hey, we're offering a New Year's Day promotion to our loyal, prior customers for XYZ service. Um, and then the important thing is not just to say, hey, we're going to put an email out, right? Which is, not too difficult to do, but then it's the follow-up, Ruth, and I think that's where there's a lot of missed opportunity. You might send out a newsletter, or maybe you're already doing newsletters for those listeners, and say, okay, yeah, that's a great idea, Jason. We're going to do this. We're going to send out an email about, this to our past customers. But what's the next step? Not everybody's going to open up the email. So even if you get a 30% open rate, that's 70% of the people that haven't even seen the email. Do you have the bandwidth to make phone calls? Maybe you have a system where you can send out a text notification. Um, I have some clients that still believe in older communication. That still is very effective. So maybe it's a direct mail piece or a letter that gets sent to them in the mail. Hey, you've been a customer for a long time, and these are some things we can do for you. So my point being is that it's not just doing one thing and hoping it works. It might be a few different approaches, but it's also the follow up too. So, for example, if you did send out that email, you said, hey, we have this great promotion we're going to run, and we know that you may need this service. If they open up and click that email to go see that offer, but they don't call you or email you back, you really should have somebody on your team calling them and saying, hey, Jason, we sent you an email a couple of weeks ago about this. We just want to see if you were interested. Now, if they were because they opened up the
They
email,
open
they
the
went through,
email. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They did something. But if you're not seizing that and leveraging that information, then you're really potentially missing out on a lot of opportunity.
All right. So let's ask the question here. All right. Say I want to do this. Say I don't have anybody internally who can actually make the follow-up phone calls. Is that something you can do, or do you refer them to companies who can do this, or how does that work?
Yeah, so Cultivize doesn't actually do the phone call piece of it. Yes, we could refer them. There are other services that we can bring in where you could even do automated like voicemail drops. And for those that aren't familiar with that, those are just services where you put in a list of phone numbers and it bypasses the phone ringing and puts in a voicemail with your voice and your message that can drop in there. And so that could be a way to do it as well. But the email piece, I mean, I would think most businesses today, and having customers, over the last number of years, probably have an email address, Ruth, for their customer. Maybe not everybody does, but certainly if you have the email address, the most cost-effective way would be to send out an email.
Yeah. Or if you have permission to text.
Yes.
There are some people who prefer a text and never look at an email, my daughter being one of them.
No, you're right. I mean, it's some people feel like it's an invasion of privacy, but at the end of the day, everybody has their phone, with them pretty much all the time. And so if it's somebody that have a relationship with, and depending upon your business and how your sort of policies are around that, um, I text people without even having any, permission per se, but we've had email conversation, we've spoken on the phone. And so a text message could just be like, hey, I'm just following up. I've sent you a couple of emails. I haven't heard from you. Just want to know if there's something you're still interested in. Like I never get anybody saying like, why are you texting me? And they're
Yeah.
so taken aback. I mean, everybody's just used to that being a form of natural communication.
Especially if you've emailed them and they recognize the name.
And they
No
know who
problem.
you are,
And they
right?
know who you are. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not suggesting you buy a list of 1,000
No.
homeowners and send
No.
out a text message.
No.
But that's a different approach. So
Yep.
that's just one way of looking through, as a good practice. And now that things might get maybe not perhaps, maybe it's still a busy time, in season. Obviously if you talk about the cooling side, depending upon what market you're in, it still could be warm. I know in New York, it's getting kind of cool. I haven't been using the AC in several weeks. The
Yeah.
heat is
So
turned on now. But the point being is you can go back and say, okay, let's look at, who who we can help. And the bottom line is, you know your business best. So you know what equipment you sell, you know what type of things you've done for these homeowners, and you know the lifetime expectancy of when things need to be updated or changed. So I would start there, just creating a category to say, okay, here's all the new HVAC systems we've installed. Here's what generally needs to be done. How long does that take? And so, for example, you say, okay, every 3 years we need to do this. You say, okay, it's 2023. Who did we do this for in 2020?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And then and just start
2025. Yeah, we
right,
go to 22.
2025, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. So, but the point is that you can go back and start figuring out what services you can upsell and cross sell, and then figure out which customers would fit into that profile.
All right. Terrific. So before we take a break, somebody wants to get in touch with you. How do they do it?
The best way, Ruth, you could go to the Cultivize website, but the easiest way is go to afterthelead.com, just like it's spelled, after the lead. On there, they could download a playbook I have on how to like nurture leads, which we're talking about, and kind of follow up with them. They could also schedule a call with me, Ruth, if they want to kind of jump in and ask any questions, as well as even just signing up, for our newsletter to get tons of great information that we're always putting out there.
Terrific. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. We'll be right back.
Imagine you had total freedom. You didn't have to worry about money. You didn't have to be a slave to your business. The words, "I can't," are eliminated from your vocabulary. What if you could do what you want to do, whenever you want to do it? A financially fit business could give you that freedom. How? By knowing what your financial statements are telling you and taking action based on what they say. You can do this in less than 10 minutes a month, at an investment of less than taking your family out to dinner once a month. And if your financial statements are a mess, you can get help. Go to www.financiallyfit.business or click on the QR code below to get started today.
We're back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. I'm speaking with Jason Kramer, who is the founder of Cultivize. And if you're interested, go to afterthelead.com. Did I get that right?
You did. Good
All
job.
right, cool. And so before the break, we talked about the ability to look at your past leads and well, your past customers and what else
Mhm.
can you provide for them. So some of retention. So we said after the break, we would talk about the marketing side for 2025. So I'm sure you've got some ideas about marketing for 2025 too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So let's make a quick assumption that there'll be some listeners that are here today that have a CRM, others that don't. I think that'd be fair to say, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So for those that do have a CRM, and you have a website and people fill out the website forms and it goes into your CRM, one thing to think about is that the marketing you may be doing that's not digital, right? So we're not talking about Google ads, we're not talking about Facebook ads or things like that, but we're talking about direct mail. We're talking about door hangers. We're talking about ads in the local, like Penny Saver, flyers you're putting up in the local supermarkets. Whatever you're doing, that's more of like a um, tactical, kind of grassroots kind of method. What I would suggest is, instead of saying, hey, go to, ABC, HVAC.com, and or having, your website there, have a QR code, and have the QR code go to a very specific page on your website. That's not your homepage. It's a hidden page that only the people that scan the QR code would ever even find that page. And on that page, you would have information about your company, about, maybe some testimonials, maybe some photos of projects and things you've done, the services you provide, Better Business Bureau kind of accreditation, and things like that, and on a form, right? Where, if you want more information, you need an estimate, you grab all that information, email address, phone number, phone number, um, their name, etc. So that when they fill out that form, that anybody filling out that form came from that one QR code. And I would create a separate QR code for each of your different channels. So an example would be, we talked before about the pool company. We've also worked with other, home service providers, and putting lawn signs when the job is done, or even sometimes when the job is being done, is very popular, right? For a lot of home service businesses. On that lawn sign should be a nice large QR code that people could, driving by, would be able to just scan And people say, oh, Jason, who's going to do that? Right. But
You'd be
if you're in the
surprised.
market and you're looking, I can't tell you, Ruth, how many times I've been stuck in traffic and I'm like, oh, I really need to find a painter or find this. And there's a van in front of me and I jot down I take with my phone a picture of the back of the van, you know?
Yeah. So-
Because I see that van in my neighborhood. I'm like, oh, I've seen this van around a bunch of times in my neighborhood. They must be good if all my neighbors are using them,
Well,
right?
the really interesting one for that one is um, there is a yard sign that I go by, but it's not for heating and air. There is a Tesla charging station, and the yard
Hmm.
sign's right there with the QR code. So I scanned the QR code, and it led to a Calendly page for an estimate,
Yeah,
which is perfect.
right.
So it doesn't have to be HVAC, it doesn't have to be home. It is literally on the side of the road by, one of my major thoroughfares where I live. And how
Yeah,
did I find it? I run by it.
right,
You know,
right.
it's
And so
use them
it's an old,
creatively. Yeah.
yeah, it's an old technology that I think is really underutilized, especially in the non-digital kind of era of marketing. So if you're doing any of those things, even if you're doing a TV commercial, have a QR code on the screen, and have that be there through the whole length of the TV commercial. Um, because people will scan it. I mean, they're more likely to do that than to sort of remember your name and jot down your website.
Yeah.
So,
Or your phone
um,
number. They'll just
or your
scan
phone
it.
number,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are definitely things I would do. I mean, the other thing also, again, talking to the audience here that has a CRM, and if you don't, you can certainly do this through a Google spreadsheet. And this is something that unfortunately does get missed a lot, and it's a missed opportunity, which is when the phone rings, whether you as the owner of the company fields all your calls or you have somebody in the office or whomever, the first question should be after thank you so much for calling us is, how did you hear about us? And you have to ask that question every single time. And not only do you have to ask the question, but you have to have a predetermined list of choices for them to sort of pick from, if you will. And so those could be, I found you on Google, I saw you on Facebook, not just social media, because maybe you run, Instagram ads and Facebook. You want to know which specific platform they found you on. I saw a lawn sign, I saw your truck driving by, right? I got a direct mail piece in the mail, right? I saw your QR code at the Tesla charging station, right? Right. Right now you don't think it's super granular, but the point is that if you track all of that, again, even for those that don't have a CRM, you can do this in a Google spreadsheet. You'll start to recognize how people are finding out about you. And that's super critical because as much as it takes to be creative in your marketing and to differentiate yourself and to be, along with your competitors that you have, because everybody's vying for the same business, if you don't know what's working, you're going to keep dropping more money well into 2025 and then into 2026 on the same marketing strategies that may actually not be doing anything for your business.
Yeah.
And I'm going to repeat that because it's really important. You may be investing in marketing that's not doing anything to drive revenue. Okay.
Yeah. A
And
true story. I mean, that's real. It's not fake.
oh no, it
Yeah.
happens all the time. It
I
happens all
know.
the time. And the reality is that most businesses, I don't say most, but many businesses have the mindset marketing is a byproduct of being in business. I have to spend money on marketing because my competitors spend money on marketing. Therefore, I have to do it. And sometimes it's an arbitrary kind of number. Generally, the rule of thumb is most companies will spend anywhere from like 2 to 5% of annual revenue of income on marketing. And that's how they sort of determine their budget. Some that are more aggressive might go up to like 10 or 15% of revenue, which is a higher number. But if you want to be super aggressive, you would just take 10 or 15% of your revenue and say, this is my marketing budget per, for the business. But if you're going to do that, and you're not going to say, okay, well, what's working and what's not working? And what I mean by that is your Facebook or your yard sign or your radio ad might get a lot of people calling you, but maybe it's not the right people. Maybe you don't have the right service for them. Maybe they're out of your geographic area. A lot of home service businesses, as we know, Ruth, can only go unless you're running like a national or regional company, which some of our listeners may be doing. You're limited to a geographic location that you can service.
Yeah,
So if
absolutely.
your marketing is accidentally crossing over into a geographic area that you can't service, and you're getting a ton of calls from 4 towns away that you can't get to, right? Because you don't have the manpower to do that. You're spending money generating a lot of leads to people you can't even help.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jason, give us the website one last time.
Afterthelead.com.
Very good. So if you've got questions for Jason or you want, some ideas and some help from him with respect to putting together a 2025 marketing plan and budget, I'm sure Jason would be happy to help you for a fee, of course.
Well, no, listen, not only not, I don't want to say that, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm a big believer in education and just providing resources. So if you go to afterthelead.com, as I mentioned, there is a link to book a call with me. It's not someone on the team, not to say my team isn't great, but you're going to get on the phone with me and we're going to chat about your business, about your problems, about what you're trying to do. And there's no charge. I'm going to help you kind of figure out that next step. And so by all means, anybody listening today that wants to get a little bit more insight to what we talked about, both on either the marketing side and these different strategies. And by the way, I should just mention, Ruth, to your audience, I'm not a marketing agency. I don't generate the marketing campaigns, but I provide the tactical ways to make sure that all of your marketing efforts are being able to be tracked in such a way that you can actually know what's working, what's not
Yeah,
working.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's, to me, is
Yeah.
just as important, if not more. So
Exactly.
Jason, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Ruth. Happy to be back.
Yes, my pleasure. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Choose one thing that you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email Ruth King at hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.